Welcome back to the weekly news roundup. These are recorded live Fridays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can catch the show there on multiple different platforms. Have a look at the website at switchedtolinux.com/live. There we'll have all of the stream links going on over there. So let's go ahead and get diving on in here. Very light news because it's election week, and so everyone's talking about their candidates and who won and who lost, all that kind of stuff, and I didn't want to get at all that. So let's just go to Australia for the first half of our news. Actually, the first two-thirds of our news will all be in Australia. Tech giants and businesses warm to Labor privacy bill. Point out some flaws. So this has to do with a new privacy bill in Australia. And it says it's an unintended drafting error. You decide. Basically, the unintended error, this has to do with having a lot of fines and regulation about a global company with customers in Australia, and they have to basically the people with businesses in Australia are going to have extra measures of privacy for those people. Unfortunately, the way they drafted the law, it's if you have any business in Australia, any violations anywhere in the world are subject to Australia law. Well, that's not going to fly. But other than that, people are saying, yeah, sure, why not? We didn't get a lot in this article about what the actual bill all covers, other than increases penalties for serious and repeated data breaches from 2.2 million to whatever is higher, 5 million, 3 times the value of any benefit obtained through the misuse. That is something that needs to be implemented across the world. Here's the reason. We find this a lot in the United States. A company goes out and violates the rule. They make a boatload of profit. If they're caught and they get fined, the fines are oftentimes less than the benefit they had from breaking the rules. So what this one does is 3 times the value of any benefit derived by misusing information. This is exactly what we need in the United States. If you violate the rules and you knowingly violate the rules, anything you profit, you're paying 3 times what you profited, not just some little fine. Now, because of the oligarchy in the United States, I don't see that actually happening, but it'd be really cool. I can dream, can't I? I can dream. 30% or 30% of a company's adjusted turnover. So, you know, there's a number of different things in there. But it'd be kind of good. Of course, they said, yeah, there's a little bit of issues in here and that the bill actually covers through and would benefit or would fine you if for violations in other nations, not just Australia. So with that, you know, whatever that happens to be worth. Still in Australia, Labor forces resistance in push to expand police access to GPS data in missing persons cases. So the bill is trying to say, hey, if there's a missing person, we can access geolocation data from a phone easier than it would otherwise be. And some people are saying this could be widely abused. And I mean, I can see both sides of this. One of the kids I was mentoring at one point in time, going back about 5 years ago, actually got lost in the woods at night. And so we had like a 50-person search team coming in. They were going to bring in an IR, infrared helicopter coming in to search the woods for the kid. And the one thing the police asked is, hey, does he have a cell phone with him? Because if he had a cell phone, they would just bring a Stingray over. Because a Stingray, with the parents' permission, they could ping the phone number and geolocate him with the Stingray data. But, you know, he was a fairly smart kid and doesn't, you know, live attached to the hip of his cell phone. So he left it at home when he went for a run and got lost. We did find him later on that night, about 1 or 2 in the morning. We found him, you know, and he was okay and everything. But it was an interesting evening. But it pulls up one of the legitimate reasons for stingrays and for the things that if somebody is legitimately lost, a kid, and he had his cell phone, they could have brought in a stingray and identified him really fast. That's something they could have done. And so this bill kind of tries to open this up to say, yeah, we want to have the ability to do this. And so with that, this is kind of the thing they're trying to do. The problem is it is an erosion of some of the checks and balances for obtaining such information. And for this, there's a lot of debate going on about the bill. As long as it's very tightly reined in on specific missing persons cases, and there's family involvement. Okay. There is a downside of that. What if you have a family member that's over 18 that wants to disappear? That's a different case, and sometimes that happens. There are people with completely screwed up families that want to disappear, and so we don't necessarily want to place all those eggs in the basket of family or all those eggs in the basket of identifying and finding and tracking down a missing person easier. So there's a lot of back and forth on this bill, but another thing going on down in Australia. But for our chief story, we are back here in the good old United States. And in the good old United States here, Apple, of course, I talked about, this is going back almost 2 or 3 years now. I talked about the fact that it looked like Apple is building a advertising system. And then lo and behold, they rolled out the advertising system, and it was very controversial. Things like giving gambling ads on gambling accountability apps. It's kind of like saying, hey, we'll give you some coupon codes for the local bar if you download AA app. What? That's the type of thing Apple was in hot water for. We didn't cover that. I think that was like last week, 2 weeks ago. Those are coming out. It's just like, yeah, Apple is not doing good things on the ads. But it apparently, in rolling this out, it would appear that going back to iOS 14.6, it appears that Apple has been able to track and log absolutely everything you do on the App Store. You pull it up, it notices all the clicks, it logs what pages you're on, it's keeping all this data, partly to identify the best places to put ads and how to collect information about what ads to show. And so this was identified by some people looking at some data that was being attached and uploaded. Basically, it goes through a JSON file, gets uploaded. They intercepted the thing and found out, yeah, it's really in real time logging absolutely everything you do. Basically, Apple put session replay into the App Store. And if you think that Apple is a privacy-focused company, I'm sorry. You must be hanging out in one of these states like Colorado and wherever else that just decriminalized hallucinogenics. Whatever. But the point is, if you're using iOS devices, understand that they have the ability to track you, and it appears as though this started back in iOS 14.6. And this is all used for their advertising network. Well, we do use affiliates, and if you'd like to help support the channel, you can have a look at our affiliates. Today we are highlighting ProWritingAid. It looks like they changed their plans around a little bit on me here. I should pay more attention to those affiliate emails that get back and forth. ProWritingAid is an excellent tool. It's a alternative to Grammarly, only they've always been privacy first. They've never collected or stored any of the data that you have. They don't use it for any purposes. And if you're writing your novel here for November, hey, at the end of your day, after you've written your 1,600 words, drop it into this and do some quick AI edit checking. They do have, if you use my affiliate code, which is tlm.li/PWA, you're going to get looks like $2 off premium. If these are all new pricing for me. I haven't seen these new pricing tags. So it goes from, it's billed per month, yearly billed at $96. So $96, it basically gives you $8 per month. That is going to be a $2 discount for using mine. There is a lifetime option here as well. $319 for a lifetime, or monthly billing of $20 if you want to be able to turn it on, turn it off. There are a number of free options that you have as well, which is also pretty good. I'm actually started using this as of the last book we published, which was another author of mine. We started using this, and then I ran this through my next upcoming book, which will be released very soon. I got the final edits back today. All those are implemented in. The next steps are record the audiobook for that, and then start pushing everything out on the distribution lists. But I'm using ProWritingAid to do those edits. tlm.li/PWA. And now we're going to jump on over to security news. All right, so in our security news, First up, Medibank. Remember, this is the breach. We've covered it for a couple weeks now in Australia. Again, this is one of the ones leading to a lot of these new regulations coming out. Now the people who breached them is threatening to release a lot of data, and Medibank says that they're not going to pay any ransom because they think it's probably riskier to pay the ransom than to not pay the ransom. And so one article that I read suggests that the hackers are trying to release abortion data. However, the official documentation here would appear that is not the case. I think someone's just plying in on all of the current take on abortion privacy and throwing that out there. I don't know. I saw one article that was not a very good article, probably suggests that more than anything else. But these guys did say that, yeah, we're going to start releasing data. And the people say they don't actually have any information about what health data claims you did. But there's enough personal information. Mostly the issue here is the personal information can be used to verify who you are and to do targeted phishing attacks. That really appears to be what the issue is that they're looking at here. Well, 15,000 sites are hacked for massive Google SEO poisoning campaign, and lo and behold, WordPress. Now, the one thing we don't know on this is we don't know how they're getting in yet. The articles I read, it is WordPress. We know it's WordPress from what's going on. Basically using wp-signup.php, wp-cron.php. They're making adjustments. I've actually seen this exact breach before as I've cleaned up WordPress sites. Maybe not this exact one, but the same way. They gain access to the server, usually through a vulnerable plugin, and they dump in, basically they take the same file and they dump extra headers. They might dump JavaScript into it. So they're dumping just a bunch of stuff inside of the header that's not supposed to be there, but all the file structure itself is intact. Now, if you're running something like WordFence, it's going to detect this hack because WordFence checks the file versions against a hash for every file. So WordFence would spot this, most likely. But basically what it's doing is it's loading in a bunch of JavaScript for fake SEO click ads. And then there's a bunch of other things that you'll see in here as well. And so it is coming through WordPress. We don't know how. Most likely it's coming from a vulnerable plugin. We just haven't identified which plugin or plugins because the WordPress core itself is very secure. I'm not saying it can't be breached. I am saying it is pretty secure. And so if you're using WordPress with very minimal plugins, you're probably not at high risk of this, but we don't know what the attack vector is for this one yet. Just be aware it exists. And hey, if you're curious, you can look at those WordPress files, or if you are running a WordPress site, make sure you have WordFence installed because it's going to spot this problem. And on to our final story for security today. Microsoft has its Dynamics 365 customer voice, oftentimes used by companies. They'll have a phone number established and you can do customer reviews and things like that. Well, when you get this, when somebody gets in here and uses this, they send you a link, and then Microsoft sends you an email, and it's legit. The problem is they're hijacking this email and sending you to a fake login screen to log in. And so what's happening is people are being spoofed by the system into opening up a false campaign, and then they're able to gain access. And I'm wondering, I need to evaluate. I have a couple Google Voice numbers that I've been getting some interesting weird ones where somebody will leave me a Google Voice, and then on the same website, a contact form with the exact same message. It says like hello and goodbye. It's weird. And so it's very interesting to see it happen. So I got to evaluate those and see if that's the case. But basically they're sending you the email. The email looks pretty legit. Of course, if you were to hover over this, it would be a different URL. The URL is going to take you into a sign-in page that looks perfectly legit. If you're paying attention to the URLs up here, you'd be able to spot it. But then you log in and then they will now have access to your information. Of course, you have 2FA. Now they just have to figure out how to bypass that. And hey, all things would be interesting for them. So if they have some best practice here, always hover over all URLs. Don't click them, just hover over them, because you will see on every operating system, usually in the bottom left of the screen, you'll see where that URL wants to open to. So make sure you open to those. When receiving an email with a voicemail, ensure it is a typical type of email received. If unsure about the email, ask the original sender. I would just log into your Office 365 Dynamics account without clicking any links and see if there's anything there. That's what I do with all those ones that get me. You think I'm clicking the link in the email? I don't click links in emails when I know they're coming. If you'd like to help support the channel, we do have a Patreon page, patreon.com/TOMM. You can come on over there and join in the conversations going on. With that, we'll go ahead and wrap this one up here. Thanks for watching. I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux. Thank you for watching this video from Switched to Linux. This channel would not be possible without the backing of the program supporters scrolling on the screen now. You can be a supporter at Patreon at patreon.com/TOMM or at thinklifemedia.com. I also want to thank the open source community who creates such excellent software that makes producing this show possible. Please remember to support your software communities. Thank you, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.